Hey Jeffrey, good to have you on board.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're doing some incredible work in Indonesia and the used car market. So, very interested in hearing you share your journey to everyone.
I would love to. Yes.
I've seen you pitch, I've seen you wheel and grow your business over the years. Tell us more about who is Jeffrey and your journeys to being the CEO.
Maybe I would start way back, maybe when I just graduated high school. I graduated high school in 2004. At that time, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I want to do something in business. Then I went abroad to get my degree. At that time, my thought was computer is getting important. You need to understand computer and you need to understand business. And the combination of those two is basically information systems. That's the major that I went in college. My first internship was at Dell, and it was a IT project manager. And I didn't like it, to be honest. It's basically a lot of like you have to manage these developers, programmers. Got a chance to do another internship, and I was a IT forensic at Ernst Young. It's about the same. It's not a technical role. After those two internships, I thought, well, I want to get into a more technical IT job because if later on you want to become an IT project manager, like a CTO or something, you need to at least understand what the developers or programmers are doing, right? So I went back, took some more computer science classes. After I graduated, I got my first job as a IT consultant, a technical IT consultant at this company called SunGard. It's based in Dallas, Texas. And what they do is they build custom applications. And one of the clients that I built an application is auction company. It's the second biggest auction company in the US, and I built an inspection system for them. After SunGuard, I decided that it's time for me to go back and look for other opportunities here.
After coming back to Indonesia, what did you do?
So the story was I didn't go back to Indo for like about 5 years, maybe. And after 5 years, I decided to go back just to check out Indo, what's going on, right, and see my families. During the vacation at that time, I was watching TV like in the family living room with my brother, my parents, and I saw this ad comes on TV, and it was an ad for tokobabus.com. It's the first classified in Indo. I didn't know that at the time, right? When I saw the ad, I was like, this is interesting website, right? And then I go to my laptop and check it out, and it's an online classified. It's basically Craigslist, right? And in the US, Craigslist would never even think about putting an ad on TV. And based on that, I thought, wow, this is interesting. Like maybe the tech industry in Indo, the like startup industry is gonna get hot in the coming years. And based on that, went back to the US and I told my boss, hey, I quit, I'm going back to Indo. And my ex-boss, he actually already went back to Indo like maybe like a year earlier. I contacted him and he said, hey, like great, you're coming back. I have this software house company. It's an outsourcing company. You can help me out, build the developer team. And that's what I did for the first like maybe 6 to 8 months in Indo. So I didn't have any idea that I was going to start a company at the time. I would just go back and see what happens.
That's amazing. Now that you've grown this company to where it is today, how and why do you find leadership important?
I think leadership is very important because leadership it's many things, right? But one of the most important things is leadership gives direction. It directs whether it's a company or a team where to go. And no matter how good like the execution or how fast the company goes, and nowadays companies are pushed to go fast, right? But if you're going in the wrong direction, then the company or the team is not going anywhere, right? The analogy would be someone like who's driving a car. If you're driving a car and you want to get somewhere, you need to get the correct map first, right? Once you get the correct map, then you can get to your destination. I guess a good example would be something that Autospector. I think early last year, we partnered with one of the biggest used car classifieds in Indo. The partnership went very, very good for like 1 year. In June this year, they decided to cut us off and started their own inspection service. And the team at the time, they really panicked, right? They're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Should we like study how they do inspection, study their pricing, etc., and the direction that I gave to the team was that, we have more experience in this field, right? And we should just keep focus on our direction, which was to develop our warranty program and get more dealer partners, build our own certified dealer network that actually helps the company to be where it's at now.
Awesome. And how did you first get started on the used car market as a problem to solve?
So back to the story when I went back to Indo. When I went back, I didn't have any car. I need to have a car to go to my office because it was like really far. And if you've been to Jakarta, the traffic is really, really bad. I mean, and the public transport is also bad. So you need to have your own car pretty much. Or motorcycle. So I thought, well, I'm gonna get a car, but I don't want to buy a new car because I bought a used car in the US and I thought it's a car because car is not an investment, right? It depreciates. So buying a used car is actually, I thought it was a smart move, and I thought the process was really horrible. The process was horrible. I did get a crappy car when I bought my first car here. I already took the car to a like repair shop to get it checked. And even after that, the car broke down in just like 1 week. The car broke down in 1 week. It stayed at the shop for like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks to a month. Went back to the dealer and the dealer said, well, I cannot do anything, it's sold as is. There's no warranty. So I'm like, okay, okay, good to know you, and just went on. So based on that, and my partner, which is my brother, he told me the same thing. He's been in Indo for like, he's 6 years older than me, and he told me he never buys used car because he's afraid that the car is not reliable. And I saw an opportunity here, right? There is this trust issue in the used car market that I need to solve, and I want to help people, not get a crappy car, basically.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like I would have a terrible time buying a used car. And I'm glad that I would definitely use your service instead of trying to buy a used car in Indonesia. So kudos to you for helping so many people. What hurdles have you personally overcome?
Hurdles. When I started Autospector, there's definitely many hurdles. I didn't think it's gonna be this hard when I was gonna start Autospector. One of the examples would be when you just start a company, you don't have. I mean, you're practically you're bootstrapping with your own money. I mean, some people do get investors' money without even instructions, but that's unheard of nowadays. But for Autospector, we bootstrap. So we need to save basically every penny that we can, right? So when we start Autospector, we know we want to do a lot of digital marketing. We cannot hire an expert in digital marketing because that's going to cost a lot of money. So I had to learn it by myself. Watch YouTube, watch tutorial. And then after digital marketing, you have to learn how to fundraise. That was my first time experience fundraising. Didn't know what a term sheet is, how it works, what are the terms. You have to learn it. Building your own like sales team, recruiting. Yeah, so you have to learn a lot, and that's opportunities definitely, but that's one of the hurdle, I would say. And another thing would be hitting a plateau where, let's say, if you did something for the first time, let's say you did something last year, right? You did a marketing campaign and it, let's say, doubles your sales. If you did the same thing this year at the second time, you will not get the same result. And for instance, when we just started Autospector Instagram, we hired an influencer to endorse Autospector. And the follower at the time was 7,000. And when we hire the influencer, it doubles to 15,000, 14 to 15,000. Once we hit, like, we're at 85,000 followers, and I hired another influencer, and even with more followers, it only adds like 2,000 or 3,000 followers. So you have to keep thinking, be creative, be innovative, and just find different channels, different ways to grow your business, because that's the holy grail, right? Grow the company.
Is there for people looking to build a startup in Indonesia?
Support, there's definitely, I would say the ecosystem is not, I wouldn't say mature, but there's definitely support for startups. Like for me, for instance, after 6 months, I got into an accelerator program called Plug and Play. It's an accelerator. It's based off Silicon Valley, right? And they're not the first one, right? There's many accelerator program, many incubator program. So there's definitely support and community around startup, right? The challenge in the startup in Indo I would say would be the human resource, because in order to build a good startup, you need a good human resource in the tech industry, right? Good developers, good programmers. And I would say at the moment, I mean, it's getting better, definitely, but it's not there yet. So you see a lot of Indonesian startups, they use developers from the field, from I think Vietnam or India, because it's hard to get a good IT developer here.
What's the state of technical talent in Indonesia? How does one go about building a startup like the way you have done?
For me, I was lucky since I had a technical background, so I did everything myself when Autospector started. As we're growing, like we're at the stage where we're trying to hire technical talents, and that's where I found difficulties here. Hiring good technical talents, because you're competing with all these unicorns, right? Like you have Gojek, you have Tokopedia, and they're paying huge salaries to the good programmers, technical talents. So for us, it's really hard. It's there, but it's really hard.
How have you seen startups overcome this lack of technical talent in Indonesia?
I think one of the options is to go abroad. I know startups that use developers in Vietnam, for instance, or in India, right? That's one option. Another option is there's a lot of coding bootcamps in Indonesia right now, and that definitely helps add to the supply of technical talents here. And another option is to hire a fresh graduate. So you probably get a very experienced IT talent, right? And once you get that first one, then you build a team using fresh grad, and just you're gonna kind of train them as you grow the company. Those are the three options usually. And for me, I was lucky because when I worked for 8 months here, my coworker was a very good, experienced Android developer. He got a master's, computer science master's from ITB. ITB is one of the good university here, and he's my CTO now. So I got lucky.
Amazing. It's always good to be better to be lucky than all other things, right? So, you've had the opportunity to live and work in both Indonesia and in America. How would you compare the two markets for the technology and startup landscape? You talked a little bit about the maturity of the ecosystem. You've talked about the differing, services being launched in the market.
When I was in the US, I was not in the startup scene. I would say I was in I was working as an IT, technical talent. I was working for this company that builds custom apps for these companies, right? But I was actually far from the Silicon Valley scene, startup scene, I would say. But from what the major difference is back to that, I guess the human resource, the talents. It's, let's say for instance, right, in Indo, if you say, okay, I'm building a blockchain industry with AI powered, etc., etc., I would think twice about, is this true or not, right? It's really hard to find that like deep high tech talent in Indo. Whereas in the US, it's something very common, like, oh, okay.
What common myths are there about the Indonesian used car market?
Common misconceptions, which something that I had before I started Autospector, was every used car dealers are scammers. They're trying to sell you crappy car and basically scam you out of your money. And after running Autospector for 4 years, we have started to partner with all different dealers, and I found that to be actually not true. People in Indo, for instance, they prefer to buy from a user instead of dealers because they think, oh, dealers, that's what they do. They sell cars. They know how to cover up the damages without even repairing it. After running Autospector for 4 years, I didn't find that to be true. There is a small percentage of used car dealerships that do that. They sell cars that has been in accidents or flooded, etc. But it's a small percentage. And this small percentage, I believe, gives a bad rep to the whole used car dealerships. Because there are many dealerships that are, they're trying to build their reputation. They're selling good cars. They don't try to scam you. They're doing good, honest business.
How do you think the Indonesian car market compares to the US car market in terms of history? Is it like you'd look at it as Indonesia is going to catch up with the American car industry in the next 10, 20 years?
Compared to America, definitely we're far, far behind. America is the first world country. It's very developed. I forgot the number, but the car transaction in America maybe like triple, maybe twice or even triple the car sales in Indo. I believe Indonesia is definitely growing. It's a growing economy, right? Our economy is getting better. There's definitely growing middle class, and growing middle class means more cars going to get bought. And I believe the market will definitely grow to be the same as America, maybe 15 to 20 years, maybe. But I definitely believe the car, because the motorcycle penetration is very, very high. Right? The car is not there, but as the income is growing, people are going to start to switch from motorcycle to cars, and that's what's going to fuel the growth of car ownership in India.
Indonesians love cars, right? I mean, every time I visit Indonesia, it's a massive traffic jam. I'm always mind blown because the traffic jams are so insane and people are still buying more cars. So, help me explain what, the first thing you did when you got home was to buy a car. So, tell me more. Why do people love cars?
I would say it's two things, right? First one, Indonesia is not pedestrian friendly. If you see like what do you say? You can't like walk. It's hard to walk in Indo. That's the first factor. And the second one is also the public transport. Public transport is not managed very well, I would say. Jokowi, he built the first like monorail, LRT, MRT, right? It's definitely an improvement, right? But the culture, at least in Jakarta, right? At least in Jakarta, people are so used to driving their own car. That's another, I guess, hurdle that Jokowi has to overcome. Like how to get people out of their car to use the public transport. And like for me, that was my thinking. Like when I went back to Indo, I live in like East Jakarta, and my office is like the West Jakarta. Even with cars, it took me like 2.5 hours one way. If you use public transport, it's maybe like 5 hours. 2.5 is already bad. I don't want to go to.
What trends do you see with Indonesians and urban mobility, right? I mean, globally we're seeing so many scooters. We hear about staying home and maybe people, staying further away from work. Do you feel like these trends are impacting Indonesia, or is it going to continue being car heavy in terms of the focus?
I think it's still gonna be car heavy in Jakarta. Like let's say, for instance, right, the public transport is getting better. People might use that for their daily commute to work. But in Indo, I mean, the mindset even till this day, some people still think that car is an investment, right? It's a luxury, it's an accomplishment in your life to buy a car. For instance, right, in Indo, the used car sales always spikes up before the Lebaran. The Lebaran is like the biggest Muslim holiday, and people they go back to their city, to their country, and they always feel that I want to buy a car and show that I own a car to my family back home. They consider that as a prestige, and I don't think that's going anywhere. And people are still gonna own cars for that reason, and for weekends when they want to go with their families, they would prefer to drive their own car instead of taking public transport.
The middle class seems to keep growing. What do you see them buying more of in the decade to come?
Cell phones, definitely. Cell phones. They would buy car. They would buy property. In Jakarta, the property is very expensive, and it's definitely something that people are they want to buy once their economy getting better. I don't know. I think that's and people in Indo they love. I think family is number one for Indonesian. I guess that's common in all Asian culture, maybe. So definitely more family needs, I would say.
For so many founders, they're always being told, go look at Indonesia, 300 million consumers. You have to expand there. And so I have American founders looking at Indonesia to expand as a market. Singaporean founders are being asked to go to Indonesia. And, you're on the other side, right? You're watching everybody come in. What do you think about that?
I think it's definitely interesting. Like Indonesian market is definitely huge, right? 250, 300 million people. I think lucky to be Indonesian because, being a local guy gives you a slight advantage, I would say, because you know the culture, how people operate here, I would say. But Indonesia is definitely unique, right? Many people said that. Many people said that it's unlike any other market. For instance, like you say, like, Tokopedia, right? It's something that's, I would say, unique. In America, you have Amazon. Amazon is like Blibli. Blibli.com is it's an e-commerce kind of like Amazon, but it doesn't take off as big as Tokopedia, and that's something that people probably wouldn't guess. For people from abroad, definitely they need to do some adjustments to the market here.
I've heard a common warning by my Indonesian friends is that Indonesia is not Jakarta. Indonesia is a big country. Could you explain a little bit more about what that means?
Even I have that faulty mindset because people they said don't be Jakarta centric, because Jakarta, when you see Jakarta, buildings everywhere, internet connection is, I would say pretty good. It's quite different if you compare that to, let's say, Papua, right? In Papua, last time I heard, I don't know if that's true till now, the electricity is cut off every 12 hours or so, I believe, right? I think up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, like gas prices in Papua is like 3 or 4 times higher. It's always good to think that, Jakarta is Java and Jakarta is definitely the center, but you have Sumatra, you have Kalimantan, you have Maluku, etc., right? And there's this untapped market that you need to think of. Like my friend, for instance, my friend, He owns a light bulb company. If you think about, if you only think Jakarta, right, you're like, oh my God, the market is so saturated. You have this brands from other countries like Philips, other well-known brands, right? But he thought that, well, I should go to East Indonesia where there's less well-known brands, and he can conquer the market there, and he gains a lot of success from that way of thinking. So definitely think about other part of Indonesia, because that's where the untapped market are. And can I add to that? And also for Autospector, right? For Autospector, used car seller from, let's say, in Maluku or in Kalimantan, they buy cars from Jakarta, right? Because this is the center. They buy cars from Jakarta and they sell it there for a high margin. And that's something also that we're thinking about. Like if we can create this trust, and people from Kalimantan or Sumatra, they can buy a car from Jakarta, knowing that it's been inspected by a inspector and it has the warranty protection. It will also, we can get the needs there for more cars and kind of streamline the process, I would say.
Autospector is really doing something special to transform the whole used car experience for all Indonesians. What's your secret sauce in transforming this buying, inspection, and overall experience for Indonesians?
What we're trying to provide, or what we're trying to do, is give peace of mind, basically, when buying used car. Because when you see more developed countries like the US, they have regular inspections mandated by the government, for instance, like a yearly inspection. It's not like that in Indo, right? In the UK, for instance, I talked to one of my friends in the UK, and he told me, if you buy a used car in the UK and the car broke down in like 3 months, there is a law that allows you to return that to the dealer. And there is no law like that in Indo, right? So it's virtually, the used car market is unregulated, virtually unregulated, right? So you need a independent and trusted company that helps you weed out the good car from the crappy car, right? And we want to provide that. Like I told you, like my brother, he never buys a used car because he's afraid. We want to solve that trust issue, and people think, oh, these used car dealers are scammers, and I found that that's not right, and we can become the trusted bridge between the used car buyer and seller, and make that transaction happen a lot more safe and convenient.
What are you most excited to continue building at Autospector in the coming year?
We're really excited because we have become the number one inspection service, right? And we are starting to gain trust from these used car dealers, independent used car dealers. And these used car dealers, they basically dominate the used car market in Indo. Around, based on our research, it's around 80% comes from these dealers, right? Once we build our dealer network, and we can build a platform where people can buy used cars, certified used cars, and it's protected by warranty. And I'm really excited to build that platform and give people assurance when they buy used car.
Could you share any success stories that you've heard or customer testimonials?
There are many, and that's definitely something that kept me going at the start when it was really, really hard, right? One of the things that I learned, like I watched this Jeff Bezos of Amazon interview, right? And he told me, when you build a company, you should focus on your customer, be customer focused, and always try to build your product based on your customer feedback. And that's what I did. So I always, even before there was no like customer service staff, I used to do all the customer survey, because I want to know how people, what's their experience, right? And that definitely helps me. Like, let's say one customer from Kalimantan, he bought a car from Jakarta without even looking at it. He just trusts the inspection service, And then he ordered a inspector, got the report on the email. Once he saw the report looks good and he got the 1 month warranty, he just had the car shipped to Kalimantan, and it saves him, I don't know, millions of rupiahs, like the time it took for him to like fly back and forth, and the money, and he got his dream car, and that's definitely very, very satisfying, definitely.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey, for sharing your story. I think so many people are really lucky to have your service and help them de-risk such a risky purchase, and also help them be able to travel between family and work.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, Jeremy. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.